Hello, guys. I'm Vinay. I'm your host for this evening. I'm from Gully Tours, and we're creating this virtual tour of this fantastic work that's been done by Bengaluru Moving, the campaign, along with Geechu Galu, right? Let me introduce Yash, who's my partner on the ground. Yash, can you hear us?
Hi.
Hi, Yash. Do you want to introduce yourself to all of us, Yash?
Sure. Hi, I'm Yash. I'm a sculptor. I'm also a part of the Geechu Galu collective. The Geechu Galu collective is a set of loose artists who banded together when Start India had come to Bangalore, and we thought that maybe we can localize the work that we do as practice, as critique, and then that's where we started uh, at Dhanwantri Road. And then we inhabited that underpass for 2 years and then moved on to different locations of Bangalore. 5 years later, here we are in Malleshwaram uh, because of the fantastic opportunity provided to us by Bengaluru Moving, the Purpose Group. And Geechu Galu consists of Shri Vyas, Runjun Kejriwal, there is Oshin Gupta, there's Dia Pinto, there's Chandana Bibi, Spandana, DC Charan, there's Abhishek, Abhijit Rao, and a few other collective members who we hope are in the meeting today, and they can pop up at certain times. And that's about it. Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you, Vinay.
Thank you. Thanks, Yash. Yash is almost a sheet anchor to put the whole project together, coordinating with the artists, the sites, and all of it. And he's going to be our little window into Malleshwaram coming live, right? So he's going to walk us through. So that's Yash in the ground. We also have Gauri here from the Bangalore Moving Campaign. Hi, Gauri, and Tanisha from the Bangalore Moving Campaign. These are people who really work with Geechu to put together this whole program. So hi, Gauri. And who we also have joining this evening are a few artists from the collective. We have Amitabh, we have Spandana, and we also have Param, right? So what's going to be great is as we walk through these amazing pieces of street art, you'll also get to hear from the artists about their piece of work, right? Great. So let's get started, right? Just to give you a bit of background. So this is Malleshwaram Hogona. This is a street art campaign that began in the month of March, April, where a group of artists, about 13 artists, came together to create 12 fantastic pieces, right? Fantastic pieces of street art. Thanks to the pandemic and the lockdown, we are unable to do the actual walk on the ground. Just to make sure that you're all safe and you could enjoy the same thing from the comfort of your homes, we're attempting this audacious live virtual walk, right? So forgive us if Zoom or Google or the other parts of the world interrupt, but I promise you we'll keep going come rain or shine, right? Is that right, Yash?
Sounds good.
Okay. So that's the plan, right? That's the plan. So here, we're going to walk from the first piece of art until the last piece of art, which is about 12 pieces in all. This is about a kilometer, a little more than a kilometer, 1.2 kilometers. And as we're at these works, we'll talk a little more about that, right? So here, right in front of you is the first piece. Yes, do you want to just pan out and just help us understand where exactly you are? I know you're in Malleshwaram, but where exactly you are? Wow.
Sure. So I'm at the 18th cross. This is a bus bay. Right. And over here today, we still have 3 or 4 different buses that stop by. It's not a bus stand, but a place where a lot of 3 particular buses that stop by in Malleshwaram. It's quite famous. It's been here forever. Actually, Jaga had activated this project. Not this project, but this site 10 years ago. So you might see a couple of other murals around and you might have seen it earlier. So this is what the bus stand looks like. And it's covered by a canopy of wonderful 2 peepal trees that are huge. So 18th cross, right behind Kendra Vidyalaya School. What we have in the background is Kendra Vidyalaya. Yeah.
18th cross, Malleshwaram is iconic. It's a commonly referred landmark saying, oh, let's meet at 18th cross Malleshwaram, exactly the school right behind. So this is the first piece of art. It's called Greetings from Malleshwaram. The artist is Saksham Verma. Do you want to take a little closer, Yash, exactly. So if you
Yeah.
look at the art here, this is in Kannada. He's talking about Malleshwaram, and what he's really tried to do, the artist here, is capture the essence of Malleshwaram, right? That's exactly what he's tried to do. Just capture the essence of Malleshwaram, right? Why?
So Saksham Verma,
Yeah, yeah,
sorry.
yeah. Just
Saksham Verma is a graphic designer and a typographer. Sorry, I didn't mention.
yeah.
So he's designed this type to capture the essence of Malleshwaram. Sorry, I forgot to add that earlier.
Interesting,
Back
exactly.
to you.
Yeah, that's his interest, typography. But while we are at this piece of work, I'm curious, and let me ask this to the audience here. When you think of Malleshwaram, what comes to your mind, right? When I just say Malleshwaram, you want to come on and chat and just uh, let us know what comes to your mind when I say Malleshwaram. For a lot of you who are from Bangalore, of course, been to Malleshwaram often. For anybody else, when you think of, I'm already hearing CTR, so it's food, it's good food, of course. Yeah, good old Bangalore, yes, old world charm, totally. Veena stores, culture, temple. I'm hearing more food. Of course, I'm hearing temple. The streets there, food. Um, Interesting, yeah. And the big roads here, Margosa, Sampige. Yeah, I think you're really pretty much, yeah, capturing the essence of Malleshwaram. Really, Malleshwaram stands for exactly, it's old Bangalore. It's got a lot of old Bangalore charm, a lot of great eateries, some lovely trees. Colleges, exactly, a lot of fantastic institutions, right? Good old institutions for education is what you find in Malleshwaram. And exactly, if you want to take in the market, just lose yourself. It's a great locality. Um, and if you now look at the piece of art again, that's exactly what Saksham has tried to do, really. Capture the essence of Malaysia, whether it's the people, the temple, the culture, the food. So this is the first piece of art. It's called Greetings from Malaysia, right? So as we move on, yes, shall we head to the next artwork, right? So yeah, that's Yash walking down. Something else I really enjoy about Malaysia, these beautiful trees, right? These lush green trees and these boulevards. Of course, as the city grows, we miss that all the more. This is a popular thoroughfare in Malaysia called the Margosa Road, and the one in Paris is called Sampige. So anybody who's from Malleshwaram, and if you talk to them about any landmark, it's always about crosses and mains, right? So somebody outside of Malleshwaram is extremely confusing. They say, "Oh, just go to 8 cross and 7 main." I'm like, "Where?" Right? So that's exactly how they work in terms of locations here. But just take a step back in terms of how does this happen, right? When I'm talking about these the crosses and mains, what's the story behind it? This goes back about 120 years, right? In the 1890s, we had a massive attack of plague in Bangalore, and back then, old Bangalore was largely the areas around Chickpet, right? It was thanks to plague, right? This whole importance of town planning came to the forefront, and that's when two fantastic localities in Bangalore came into existence. One of them was Baswangudi, right? And the other, Malleshwaram. When you look at these two localities, both stand for the old world charm. And if you look at the map of Malleshwaram, just look at Google, you'll see the whole planning of Malleshwaram is whole this grid system. You have these the roads and the crosses, the mains and the crosses, right? So that's when when you're talking to somebody who's grown up in Malaysia, it's always the mains and the crosses, right? So the good old town planning that comes into picture. So Malaysia has been in existence since the 1890s, right? So a good 120 years. And in Malaysia, like I said, if you're seeing not just places to eat, educational institutions, if you're going there for a music concert, the charm of Malaysia is something that's bound to happen, right? But if you look at the screen again, if you see where Yash is, from these big important main roads, he's moving into something much smaller, right? And this is a very interesting aspect of Malaysia. These are just not narrow alleys or gullies or alleyways. These lanes, if you also see, have the back of the houses and not the front, right? And these are traditionally called the conservancy lanes. So what's the story of these conservancy lanes? if you look at a grid system where you have all these houses, on the back of the houses, you have these narrow lanes. This is a practice, of course, followed more than 100 years ago, where your waste from your house, both your kitchen waste and your human waste, was picked up manually. Manual scavenging was a reality, right? And these people came into these lanes, picked up your trash, and then went back away. So it was almost like these lanes did not exist. It was almost like these lanes had their dark side to it for, like I said, the dirty activities, right? Of just picking up human waste. What's interesting is this whole the artwork that you see is largely based out of these conservancy lanes. Why? It's also a great way to showcase these conservancy lanes in better light, right? So that's when you come to this next artwork, right? Right, lovely. Yes, so you're at the next one, right? And you're in one of these conservancy lanes in Malleshwaram, and look at this piece of art, guys. Yes, that's a lady with a namaste. Yes, beautiful marigolds. Do you want to show us how the street looks as well? Yes, with art. Lovely, lovely, beautiful, beautiful. Yes, that's a mango tree at the back, and you're clearly seeing it's the back of the house. This is not the main entrance. This is the back of the house, right? You're seeing another lady there, right? Again with her back turned. Yes, the marigolds again, right? Yeah, beautiful and intricate work. And if you're taking a step back, yes, you're seeing a lady on your far left. You're seeing another lady right in front, right? Yes. Do you also want to show us what's on the other side? Yes, exactly. You have another little girl, right? If you're wondering what's happening with this piece of work, let me also tell you, these works are not just randomly placed. There's a lot of thought that's gone behind. Any of you here from the audience who really want to take a guess as to what is the artist really trying to say, right? There are three women. Two of them have their backs turned. And there's a little girl here. Do you think there's a story here, right? And if you know artists, come on, that's what they try to do, right? They try to tell you a story with their work. Any of you here, do you want to take a guess? Louder again. Somebody said something interesting. Is it first word, third word?
Sorry, I am Giri.
Here, so let's have the artist speak about the inspiration behind it. That would be lovely.
Oh yes, do we have the artist here?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Girija.
Oh, hi Girija.
Girija Hariharan. Hi.
Hi,
Glad to make to this tour. Thank you all for joining and looking at our artworks. Yeah, before I share the meaning, if anyone wants to go for it, I think it's better to hear from the audience as well as to what they think.
So you have somebody's talking about the progression of dressing from a girl to woman. Interesting. Somebody
Nice.
talking about the concept of the backyard and the front yard that Anantamurthy talks about. Interesting. Okay, that's maybe talking about what's the backyard could be your front yard as well. Interesting. Somebody saying superb Girija. Somebody saying welcome. Do you want to take it away, Girija? Do you want to tell us?
The Chendu looks beautiful.
Sure. Thank you.
The
Thank you so
looks
much.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much. So yeah, it has to do with all of it, all of those words: progression, welcome, back entrance, all of these. So like, sorry, I didn't get your name. The coordinator said.
I'm Vinay. I'm Vinay and that's Tanisha and Gauri.
Hi Vinay. Sorry, I'm bad with names. So like Vinay said, these are conservancy lanes, which are the darker side of the city, you know, where the people who inhabited these lanes or use these lanes the most were the people of the manual scavengers or conservancy workers who were not supposed to be seen or welcomed into the houses through their front doors. So these lanes are example of the unwelcomeness. So I wanted to show it in a positive light to say that they are welcome. I also wanted to kind of make a subtle satire on the people who did not welcome them, right? So it's a it's a reverse progression. So when you start with the elderly lady with the sari, she is basically belongs to the older generation, a little older than us, where they had a very strong casteism around these houses. Most of these houses are elite upper class houses. So I'm trying to show that you are welcome. She's welcoming us from these people from the back lanes, from the back side, right? And as it progresses, our generation is kind of, we had intercaste marriages, and I had one. So basically we are trying to turn towards welcoming the people, but with still we are turned around and we are still not completely there. And we have that rose water in our hand, right? The girl in the middle, that basically is used in marriages to sprinkle on the people who enter the place, to make them, it's a perfume. So perfume has to do with smell, and conservancy work also has to do with smell, right? So this is a small play on that. And then comes the new generation, my daughter, who are, very free and welcoming to all people of all kinds, all castes, all religions, and everyone is welcome. And that is what I wanted to show with these three ladies. And I found that small drainage pipe at the top, and I decided to pour a lot of marigolds from the drainage pipe to show that, people who are involved with these conservancy and manual scavenging work are now welcome, and they welcome to be a real part of the society where they're educated and they can take up jobs that deserve respect, and so on. So
Beautiful.
this was the idea behind the painting.
Beautiful, Girija. I think what you have in mind, and I think how you depicted it, beautiful. I think the story out there. I'm also curious, is that little girl your daughter?
Yeah, she's a mix of me and my daughter, I think. But yeah, my daughter looks more beautiful, so I will say it's my daughter.
Very interesting. Of course, I did hear that. I think you try to incorporate your daughter in a lot of the works that you do, and I think that's such a
Yes, yes.
a great way of having a little memory book for her, right, across the city. Lovely, lovely, Girija. Thank you so much for sharing, talking to us about your piece of art. With this,
Thank you so much.
thanks, Girija. We'll move on. We'll move on to the next piece of work. And while we're at it, let me use this opportunity to tell you all that this virtual art walk, Malleshwaram Hogona, is a fundraiser, right? It's a fundraiser for Hasiru Dala, which is a social impact organization that's doing some great work to help people who are involved in picking up waste, in waste management, right? You can actually look them up online. You also have the link here, the Keto link, where you can just go in there and make a donation. They're doing some fantastic work, and also you help support a cause, and you also get a little tax benefit, right, when you do that. So please, the link's live, also the walk. Feel free to just click on the link and make a donation, right? We've already had Tanisha who's pledged. Great, would love to see more people there. Great. We're on to our next piece here. Yes, some flowers here, right, on the wall. I'm curious. I'm going to ask audience again. Which flower is this? What's happening on this wall? Any guesses? Any of you? Right? It's this is champa, right? You're bang on, exactly, champa. That's called up in the north, or down south we call it sampige, right? And this piece of work is done by Chandana, and she calls it "Once Upon a Time There Was a Tree," right? And it's just beautiful how she's depicted this flower. It's also, I think, very symbolic. One of the main thoroughfares in Malaysia is called the Sampige Road, and that's because you also see a lot of Sampige trees in the locality. Malaysia is famous for its temple, so you pretty much in front of every temple you have a little flower vendor, and it's very distinctive. They do sell the Sampige flower, the champa flower, and if you haven't yet had the opportunity to smell the flower, you should. It's got a very subtle and a very beautiful fragrance, right? Definitely one of my favorite flowers. That's that's the work that you're seeing in front. So that's again, you're still in a conservancy lane, and this is the side of the house. Do you want to just come back a little? Yes, exactly, and just pan and just, yeah. Oh wow, see the entire side wall of the house completely changed, right? Yes, that was the third piece of work. Great. Now, right opposite is another piece, right? And that's a bird out there. Oh wow, okay, that's a sparrow. I'm saying, do you wanna, and the sparrow up there? Do you wanna?
We actually we
Yeah, go
we
on.
have Spandana with us. We have Spandana with us in the audience.
Yeah, we have the artist Spandana. So why don't you take it away, Spandana? Do you want to tell us what is it that you're trying to portray here, Spandana, with this?
Hi. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Vinay, for letting me talk about my work. The initial idea of choosing sparrows was because there's been a major population of sparrows in Malleshwaram. And I chose this one particular spot because of the mango tree. There is a massive mango tree and there's a lot of foliage in this particular lane specifically. And you will see a lot of birds and bee eaters. Currently, you will see that the tree has been pruned and trimmed down because of various reasons. But eventually it will grow back. But when I was painting this piece, there was a thick foliage, and I had so many bird visitors come in. I had some monkeys come around while I was painting this particular piece. And the whole idea was to just show that what you guys are missing out on in terms of a population that resided in your area and has such great, what would I call it? The connection that it has with the space. I wanted to show the bird in flight, and that's pretty much what I have portrayed. You will see that there is some line drawings around it as well. Those are the Sampige, just continuing from the previous artwork. That's the whole idea.
Interesting, Spandana. A lot of us have seen sparrows growing up in our childhood, and we're slowly seeing this bird vanish away, right? And I'm told it's the lack of greenery, the lack of food for them. Do you also see, you're talking about, I think, having a little pot with water so that now it's helpful for birds to come in?
Yes, I was going to end it saying that we might want to put like a small bowl of water outside our houses, just so, you know, if not sparrows, any other bird that requires it, and not let them die of the heat and dehydration. So in order to conserve all of them, that was the whole idea.
Very interesting, exactly, something for the birds as well. And what I also remember, every time I came by and you're doing your work, you talk about how the people in the homes are so warm and helpful. Do you want to talk to us a little about the whole experience about creating street art, and how is it with these families? Because it's home, right? It's the back of somebody's home, right?
Correct. So when I did start, I had a very interesting communication with the community that was around. Initially, there was a lot of, why are you painting in these lanes? And after I started sketching the sparrows out, they came to me saying that, why don't you paint it on the main roads? Good art needs to be outside and all of that. Their instant reciprocation to an artwork is, oh, why don't you make it more available to the public, to the public's eye? And when I explained to them what we were trying to do by painting in the conservancy lanes, they sort of understood, and they asked me if there were more murals that were coming up. It started a lot of conversation within themselves and with the artist, which I think was a great achievement in itself. And they were very, very helpful. Throughout my experience of painting there, all the neighbors would come and offer some kind of juice or food or lunch or breakfast, or somehow just trying to be a part of it, and sharing their stories of how Malleshwaram used to be back in the day, and how it's changed now. So that's the kind of experience I've had.
Very interesting. So street art almost becomes interactive, because you're always evoking a certain emotion in the audience. Very much unlike a gallery that a lot of us are used to go and see a piece of work there. And this was also, if I'm not wrong, your first piece of street art. right?
It is.
So would
It
you be
is.
doing more?
I would like to.
Right.
Fantastic. Lovely. Lovely, Spandana. Great having you. Her Instagram link is on the chat. If you want to follow her lovely work, please do. It's out there for all of you to see. Great. Looking at Yash. Yes, the next piece here, right? What are we seeing on the screen here? That's a lady making a cup of coffee, right? I haven't met a single self-respecting South Indian who does not start his day with a cup of coffee. Right? Coffee is almost this instant kick, and exactly that frothy, good filter coffee, right? And there's no compromise there. And all along, right? It could be my dad, my granddad. We go back generations, right? Coffee is what tea means to the north of India. But look at this piece of work. The artist here is Enoch. I hope I'm getting his name right. Enoch Dheeraj Ebindra. And this work is called Kapi Kuditya, right? In fact, if you talk to a lot of old Bangaloreans, right, the old timers, coffee aita, which is have you had coffee, is almost a greeting. It's like, how do you say, what's up, how you doing, right? The old timers is always about coffee aita. And irrespective of what time of the day you're meeting them, it's about coffee aita. So it's a conversation starter. And you also realize how much it's a part of our culture here, right? And if you look at Malleshwaram, it's just full of these tiny places, great food joints serving a fantastic cup of coffee, right? And you just can't go wrong with a good cup of coffee. So that's filter coffee. And we're still going down the conservancy lane here. Again, we've gone into this whole the chain of coffee shops and now the whole macro roasteries with coffee. But if you look at coffee culture in India, it really goes back to the 1600s, right? Where having a cup of coffee was very much a part of our your everyday life, right? Great. So as we move from this particular piece of art to the next, I really love to talk to Gauri here, right? Gauri from the Bangalore Mowing campaign. I know you guys have been instrumental with this whole Malleshwaram Hogona. So I'm just curious, Gauri, do you want to tell us how does this whole idea begin to do street art in Malleshwaram?
Of course. Thanks, Vinay. Hi, everyone. I am Gauri. I am a member of Bengaluru Moving Campaign. We are essentially a coalition of efforts to bring down vehicular emissions in the city. We know that traffic is quite a serious phenomenon in Bangalore, and we keep it features in most of our conversations, whether or not it is directly about it. But there are so many other effects that traffic has to people's livelihood, people's living and quality of life. And Bengaluru Moving is essentially to focus on sustainable ways of transport and sustainable modes of transport as opposed to private transport and the increase of that. And basically a coalition of different organizations that come together for that particular agenda. We've had one phase before. Bengaluru Moving has had the first phase, which ended about 6-8 months prior. And in the first phase, we focused on public transport. And in the second phase, which is how Malleshwaram Hogona sort of came to plugged in, was on non-motorized transport, specifically walking and cycling infrastructure. One of our partners, Sensing Local, who works is specifically in these two neighborhoods to improve their not just pedestrian friendliness, but like basically neighborhood level access, to understand neighborhood level access issues, was working in Malleshwaram. And we thought Malleshwaram was an ideal place to do a project like this. We knew that there was a relationship between, when we could travel outside the country, you see that there's always art, and a part of capturing or sort of being around the art is walking and pedestrian. It's a relationship that pedestrians share with it. So Malleshwaram became like our microsite. We found an excellent partner in Geechu Galus, who are residents of Bangalore, who've had experiences in Malleshwaram, who've had experiences around Malleshwaram to be able to translate and understand, you know, where people really come from, what are they looking to see on these walls.
Very interesting. Sure.
Yeah.
And I would definitely, I would love to understand, I think, as you walk through more in terms of, I think, putting the whole
I see you are at Param's site already.
Exactly. Yeah. So Param's on site. So I'd love to look at, I think, what you're talking about, really making street art more accessible. Art is all around us when you travel. And that's the face of a lady out there, right? Again, this is my question to the audience. Any guesses, guys? Who's this lady? Somebody told me Jayalalita. That's the wrong answer, if that's what you have in mind. I'm just curious, who do you think, who is this person? What do you think is happening with this piece of work, right?
No.
Yes, Rekha, of course, I will talk about the locations. All this is in Malleshwaram. This is between Sampigi Road and Margosa Road, and it's all the conservancy lanes in between. Yes. Okay. Somebody's talking about pourakarmika, right? So this is a piece of art which is done. It's by this artist called Parameshwaran. He titles this piece called the Pourakarmika. Pourakarmikas are people who work with the city corporation to make sure the cities are clean, right? Our streets are clean. It's almost like a task force, and it's this invisible force that's working day in and day out to make sure that the sweeping and making sure the streets are clean. Do we have the artist here as well, Yash? Is Param there?
We do have Param. Param, are you here with us?
Great.
Yeah, yes.
Hi, Param.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Could you turn on your video? Param, could you turn on your video? If you haven't. Sorry, I'm not able to see.
Yeah. Can you see me?
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Param here. Actually, this is my pourakarmika artwork. Basically, I work on perception. When I was in the college days, I used to judge through perception because they used to see the appearance of the people, because the dressing sense, the outer look, and that looks makes more matters. Because even many people have told me, even your dressing sense makes a matter, because that is the way the people used to see the outer appearance, and then they doesn't worry about the inner feeling. So basically, I want to work in this subject is like the work matters a lot. Because I appreciate the work, because they are one of the supporting in the nature. So I feel like these people are very more supporting to the nature. One of the work, because they are not represented. So I wanted them to be represented in through artwork. So I prefer these people to be portrayed.
Very interesting, Param. You're really talking about, like, it's the invisible face that's really keeping our cities clean, and they really don't have much of an identity. And this is a bold statement that you're making. I'm also curious in terms of the choice here. Do you want to really help us understand how do you narrow down on this wall and the person here? I'm sure you had no.
See, actually, I was very confused. Like there was a concept like we have to work on some of the history of Malleshwaram. So I wanted to pick present thing to be as a future in history. So I wanted to work basically who are very close to that locality. And then this is the wall, which is a beauty parallel. So I wanted to make them as a beauty in this way. Like, because doesn't matter, because many people used to tell that they are pourakarmika. The work matters. So I wanted them to be more beautified. I wanted them to balance, like in their work passion, because they are, I like very much in their work passion.
Interesting. It's very interesting what you're talking about. No, it's a beauty parlor, and no, exactly, it's the inner beauty that you're trying to capture. And it's also, it's a real life person, right? Who works in that particular ward, who really takes care of that particular street, and it's her.
Yeah.
You see on the wall. And the other day I was in Malleshwaram, and I did meet her. Her name is Narayanamma, if I'm not wrong, and she's there every morning at 6:30, right, working away until whatever 2:30, and her face lit up, you know, when I asked her, is this you on the wall? And yeah, so it's great. It's great to really see somebody who's, you know, in charge of the ward and this piece of work. It's a fantastic piece of work, Param. Thank you. I'm just curious. I also did come across that you worked with a lot of volunteers, and it was almost like a challenge for you, where you let the volunteers do their work, and if probably they made mistakes, your bit was how do I come and correct those mistakes? Do you want to tell us a little about that?
Yeah, actually, I was very happy to get volunteer for this work, because many people, when they work on portrait, it should be like one people style. So in this, I had like a challenging task where many volunteers, they have to do experiment on my work. So I wanted them to go on further. Like I wanted them to work on something, and then it will be a correcting part will be more challenging to me. So, and then they were very happy to work on this phase. So I was very proud at like this character is making more appeal to the people, those who are working on this phase, because so it's balancing in every way, like mentally. So it's a kind of happiness they are getting to work on this phase. No, so I feel like it's very happy to challenge with work to those. So I was very happy to get all the volunteers. They great support to me.
Very interesting.
Can I just add one second? I happened to be there when Param was starting, and I knew that he is a hyperrealist artist, and everybody has their own style of work, right? And I happened to be there through the day when he was starting his painting, and he has used no lines, no sketch, just like freehand gone for this. And my mind was blown when I saw, because when you see somebody starting freehand, like I guess as a onlooker, you think that, okay, fine, there's only so much finesse that's going to be there. But when you see the layers that they have worked on, and all the people, all the layers that have been added by the volunteers, it really brings her alive. And there are lots of vantage points where this particular piece can be seen. And for me, Param going at it freehand was just beautiful to see.
Yeah, I completely agree, Gauri. I think it was a joy seeing him work. The few times I came around, he just had a picture of her, and yeah, at it, right? And as a layman with art, you just focus on how do you create art. And here's a person who says, why don't you go like, yeah, try your hand, and then I'll come and like make it better. Very interesting, very interesting. Thank you, Param. Fantastic. We will share.
There was a question.
Thank you.
There was a question that popped.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
There was a question that popped up.
Yeah.
I'll go after you.
Saying we will share the map with all the locations, the artwork, and you should definitely get out and check out this piece of work. That's what I want to say. But yes, you're talking about a question. Yes.
There was a question that asked, how does the pourakarmika feel about it? When Param and me met her early in the morning, and we proposed that we shown her the earlier work that Param had made at the Dhanvantri Road of pourakarmikas about 2-3 years ago, the hyperrealistic portraits, and she consented, and she was really happy. Actually, she was waiting. We waited a week before we started painting her portrait, because Param also needed to practice and get some proportions. And then she sent her. She gave us her husband's WhatsApp number to send the finished portrait on, and we didn't meet her like through the process because we had different timings, and Narayanamma would be here from 7 to 10 on this particular street. So she would see it in process every day, and Param just took 2 days to finish. So she really loved it, and I think like a couple of us who were around, she got us to get photos of her beside the painting and send it to her husband. She took her mask off and she used to smile. She actually used to make the effort to show her smile before we took a photo.
And you're right, and she's got a lovely smile. And I think this is a little something for audience. Wait till the end. We're going to share a picture of Narayanamma with her artwork in the background. We promise that's coming, right? Great. So moving on to thanks, Param. Thanks for your lovely take there.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next piece here, right? Wow. Yes. Just help us soak this in, right? What are we seeing? This is.
Well, this actually is a piece by Anpu Warki, one of all of our favorite artists, and she was requested by us to work on a further edition of her earlier piece that she did in Mumbai. She had painted a few feet walking, and we thought like we have to get Anpu to recreate this, but what she created is a contemporary art piece today because you see the irony of the gesture, the symbolic pedestrianizing of Malleshwaram. I think From street art, it's become contemporary art ready to be put in a gallery. What she's done is that she's put the campaign into a picture, into representation and focus on it. She has chosen the site because a lot of schoolgirls walk by from a girls' high school opposite this lane. And when we asked her to recreate her piece that she did in Delhi of just 2 feet walking across a particular street, to talk about pedestrianizing, to talk about pedestrian safety, to talk about non-motorized transport, she created this particular piece that people thought could be Didi, Mamta Banerjee, or someone else. There's a lot of common referentiality. Anpu calls it within her stride, this particular piece. And this is what it's actually over right now is a large footpath that they are reconstructing. We were here 3 months ago when we were active, but here's the state now.
Lovely. It's a lovely piece of work. Yes, do you also want to help us understand just on the far left, right next to the you're still staying on the stride. I really want to just talk about the building where this has been painted on. I see something written on the far left there. Can you just help the audience see what is that?
Yes.
And let's just talk about this little building there. Right, exactly. Yeah, that's the one. You're right.
Actually,
yeah.
Seva Sadan is a cultural institute in Malleshwaram, one of the most established ones. There are some theatre pieces. It has an auditorium in the front. There's also a girls' hostel at the back of this area. So this is like a non-profit cultural institute within Malleshwaram, which is quite significant in its history.
Exactly.
Vinay, do you want to take over?
Exactly. Like you rightly said, it's very significant in Malleshwaram's history. One of the first girls' orphanages set up in the 1930s. And one of the ladies who really founded this was Lokasundari Raman. And who was she? She was C.V. Raman's wife, right? And C.V. Raman lived in Malleshwaram. He walked the streets that we probably walk in, the Nobel laureate, and it was his wife who helped set up Seva Sadan, really, encourage girls with their education and their livelihood. And I see this piece of work is so apt on the walls of Seva Sadan, right? It's almost like women really claiming their space in public, right? This is a very interesting conversation that I heard on a podcast where if you look at public spaces and how women use them is so different from how men, it's almost in an authoritative manner. Think of the last time you're on a flight, if you're a guy, the armrest, it's always yours. Do you ever see a woman fighting for space on an armrest? The sense of space, especially public space for a woman, is perceived very different. Right? It's almost like the men with their legs wide open and the arms stretched are out there. So I think this art, I think, really shouts out loud just in terms of women claiming their public spaces. But moving on, let's look at the next piece there. You're showing me the side wall of Seva Sadan. Yes. Yeah, you're seeing, what are we seeing, Yash, there? You want to tell us?
So we're standing in Doreswamy Iyengar's street. He's a famous Carnatic musician from Malaysia, after whom this street was named. Vyas is talking about the culture of Malleshwaram.
Yes.
There are a lot of Bharatnatyam institutes, dance institutes, and he's used the gestures from Bharatnatyam, the mudra, and the gestures like dancing itself, and the feet, like in position of the dance, to talk about Bharatnatyam, and obviously continuation of the Sampike to talk about place, and then finally he talks about symbolically Doreswamy Iyengar, so where he's represented it through the Veene over here.
We seem to have him on the call today.
Which virtual
Vyas.
where is this located?
Yeah,
Great. Is Vyas here?
Where is this located? Like, where is he touring us?
We will be sharing the map with the audience at the end of the tour. So you'd have a map which could also be downloaded, and you could. It's almost like a self-help guide, and you could do it by yourself. We will share with you all the locations. This is public street art. It's meant for all of us.
That's great.
Thank you. Is Vyas there? Is the artist there?
Hey, hey Vinay, I'm here. Thanks.
Hi, Vyas. Great. Do you want to quickly tell us what is that you have on the
First,
sidewall?
yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Yeah, this was a street where the street is named after the famous musician called Vinay Doreswamy Iyengar.
If Vyas is still with us, what Vyas is really trying to showcase again was the culture of Malleshwaram. If you're really talking to any Carnatic music enthusiast in Bangalore, the place that you would go in to attend any of these kacheris, as they're called, is Malleshwaram. It's still home to some amazing music schools and also some amazing musicians, right? Yes, do you want to show us what's in front of you right now? Some bit of background noise if yeah. Another narrow gully that I see. Yeah. Yeah, from the Conservancy lanes again. Of course. Yeah. We're seeing we did cover 9 pieces of work so far. The last one was called Malleshwaram in a Glimpse. And after that, we've come to what's the 10th piece? We just have 3 more pieces to go here, right? Just do you want to show us from this narrow alley the pieces of work that your team has worked on, right? Yeah, we're coming from this narrow alley. Yes, and as we turn in, right, and that's what you're seeing, right? You're seeing a bunch of colorful things on the wall here. And now I'll be curious again and let me ask the guests here, right? Anybody here wants to take a guess as to what is that you're seeing on the walls here? Colorful, something round, right? Of course, yeah, sugar candy. That's an interesting one. Is of course pull sugar candy design. Yes, that's a good one, Rumika. Exactly. I think for a lot of us growing up in fairs, this is sugar candy where you could pull it up and the person would make different shapes, and there you go. It could be a little clock, it could be somebody's watch, etc. And then you enjoy your sweet treat, right? Exactly. That's pulled sugar candy design. The artist here is Shivu, and he's titled this Sakkare Kaddi, right? Which is the literal translation of a sugar candy in Kannada, right? So this is the next piece of art, the 10th piece of art, the sugar candy. Again, this is on the back of a wall in a narrow Conservancy lane. But if you move on from this, and if you're looking at the next one, which is right next to this, Yash, do you want to help us see? Right, what are we seeing on the screen here? This, of course, is a postcard, and I'm sure all of us at some point or the other would have sent out a postcard. But look closer. The artist here is Abhijit Rao, and he's really tried to capture, of course, a lot of Bangalore. So what you're seeing on top is the Kempegowda Tower, very symptomatic of Bangalore. You find 4 Kempegowda towers in different parts of the city. It's also the little symbol of BBMP, the city corporation. And here is a water buffalo and an egg grid on it, right? So a lot of interesting detailing on this piece of art. And if you pan out and see how this looks, right? Exactly, again, it's the back of the wall, and it's also interesting in terms of its placements because this is right behind the post office, right, in Malleshwaram. So it's right, it's around the 8th cross. You have the post office, and right behind the post office is this piece that you see, right? The post, and he calls it post-it, and that's the piece of art. With this, you've done about 11 pieces of work so far. We have 1 more to go, the last one. Yes, do you want to head to the last location? And until Yash gets to the last location, I would love to get Amitabh in here, right? Amitabh, can you hear us? Are you there, Amitabh?
Yes, very much so.
Right, great, Amitabh. So good to see you.
Yeah.
Amitabh is one of the artists who's worked with the Malleshwaram Hogona campaign. An extremely interesting artist. I'll let Amitabh introduce. But before that, Amitabh, where are you? So that sounds like a very cool location.
I'm back home actually. I'm from this place called Missouri,
Oh, wow.
and I've come here. It's work from home, so I thought I'll go home.
Great. So that's the street
So I'm home.
artists they're talking. Work from home means more street art in Missouri, I'm guessing.
Not really. This place doesn't need any street art. It's
Fair
filled
enough.
up with tourists as it is.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. Fair enough. Amitabh, do you want to introduce yourself? Do you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So hello everyone who came back after that rather interesting interruption. My name is Amitabh, and I've been painting in public spaces for close to 10 years now. I started with a lot of my other friends with Anpu, whose work you saw earlier. We all began in Delhi in 2012, and I've painted across the country ever since. I also make comics. That's a lot of my creative bread and butter. I also teach. I've been facilitating creative processes at Shrishti. I am an associate dean at the Bachelor of Vocation program, and I head the illustration pathway. I organize events, and I've been active in the independent comic circuit for a while. Yeah, that's about me.
Great. Do you want to tell us, Amitabh, you spent so much time doing street art. This whole culture of street art, and we all look at a Banksy work somewhere in the UK and all of it. Do you want to talk about this whole culture of street art? Was it something that was always around, something that got popular in the last couple of decades? For the lay art man here, do you want to tell us a little bit about street art?
Yeah, I mean, the culture of having images or messaging in public spaces has been around for a long time. The culture of having graphic images in public spaces, the first I saw was actually in Delhi, in North Delhi. It was actually a protest piece made by, I forget the name of the artist, but it was a labor movement that was covered in the mid 80s. The resurgence of interest of graphic images in public spaces, I mean, and I was part of that resurgence. It came from various contexts in various places. It started properly in Delhi, like I mentioned earlier. Of course, at the same time, our friends from Jaga were doing urban avant-garde Bangalore, in Malleshwaram. And I mean, I guess right now it's a melting pot of various people from the creative spaces. We got people from the advertising space. We got people from non-art backgrounds. We got people who are from the fine arts background, like myself and Anpu and Sanjeev Roy and others. So yeah, it's quite a melting pot. Of course, I think it should come with a rider that the use of technically street art is a movement that's globally part of the post graffiti movement. And therefore, culturally, it might seem a little bit of a cut paste sort of idea, where I think the cultural context of India, the way we look at public spaces in India, they are not sanctimonious, they are not as surveilled as they are in other developed nations. Also, the role of arts within larger cultural spheres is something that I think all of us who are part of this conversation have been trying to push. So I don't, for the lack of a better word, sure, let's call it street art, but it's got tremendous possibilities to be rendered by our own sense of place. And the Malleshwaram Hogona project is one such attempt where voices from the ground and voices from the place come together to create multiple versions of what we try and bracket as a street art.
Very interesting. Of course, I've heard of the Start Collective in terms of street art in Delhi. Do you see this whole movement in terms of street art really gaining more popularity in India? Do you see that really coming of age? I'm just curious in terms of, I haven't seen street art a lot growing up, and now you're seeing a lot more of it, right?
I don't know. I think each cultural form is a testament to its times and certain ecosystems that are built around it. For example, I mean, I grew up reading comics, and I grew up reading specifically Hindi action superhero comics. And those comics are still around, but are not in public imagination as much as they were while I was sort of coming along. I think there is a robust ecosystem built around street art practices
right,
or graphic practices in public spaces. There is, of course, resources, which means there are artists who can sustain themselves through those resources. There are interesting context. And I think the most important thing that's happening, I mean, in my limited experience of painting around the country is there is a sustained interest by the state, and there is a sustained emergence of organizations and institutions that mediate between the artist and the state, such that it allows for different kinds of situations to come up. The one that we are talking being one such. So it's an absolute joy and privilege to be part of something that's really growing in that sense. And the project that we are looking at right now is a fantastic ambassador for what it should be.
Got it. Interesting. And when you're talking about street art in the perspective of India, do you want to talk to us about your experience in Malleshwaram? I mean, for somebody who comes from Mussoorie, and then how do you really make sense of this locality, and how do you decide, how do you go about it?
That's a very good question. So I've been in Bangalore for the last 8 years, and I've been in Malleshwaram for a long time. And I mean, actually, because of the wonderful work done by Jaga earlier, the encounter that I had were of a very sensitized kind, not the kind that we encountered a few minutes ago. And there was a lot of interest, awareness, support for the nature of work that we were trying to do in Malleshwaram. I also have some amount of friends in Malleshwaram, and I've been around Malleshwaram. So I've had some amount of lived history in Malleshwaram. So yeah.
Right. As Amitabh speaks, this is Amitabh's work that you're seeing in again one of these conservancy lanes in Malleshwaram, and he calls it putting the mull in Malleshwaram, right?
Yeah, right. So actually, it's on both sides. So I had the opportunity to work on both sides of a wall, which was a rare opportunity, because usually when you work in whatever the street art context, it's all about size and impact and a certain kind of an effect that you have. So very rarely do I get the opportunity to sort of work within a certain subliminal register of place, and that's what this project allowed me to do. This here is a victory sign of the project. So when we started, it was a disused lane. And not many people even knew, like even people who had lived there for like 30 odd years didn't know of the existence of the lane. And suddenly pop comes our effort, and now people want to use the road and they want to build a gate, which is why part of the artwork has been broken down to build a gate so that the entry can be the back entry, a perverse response to an earlier piece we saw where back entries were dubious orientations for even more dubious, situations.
Right. I think it's a great example of how art can bring about change, right? In your own small way, right? I think it's a lane that was completely disused, and now we're seeing activity.
Yeah, I mean, it's and the nature of the piece was also trying to not, I mean, because of already present attempts at representation and images that you can say, oh, this is a feet moving, or these are flowers, etc. I think I had the opportunity to do something different, and different from what I usually do, because again, because it's in public spaces, I think
sorry, Amitabh, we lost you for a bit there. Wait, until Amitabh comes in. This is Amitabh's piece in a conservancy lane all through. It's a very interesting and very trippy piece, and it's beautiful. And you'll be surprised to see how this place was to how it is now, right? The whole transformation. In a bit, I'm just going to be sharing with you some very interesting work in progress images where you'd see all the artworks that you've experienced today on this virtual walk, in terms of how they took shape, right? The artist and the journey, how plain blank walls went on to have this really interesting piece of work. So I'll do that in terms of just very quickly, I'll just share with you a bunch of pictures so you get an idea as to how the whole project progressed. And Post that, we'll just open up for Q&A with the audience. Before I just go into the work in progress images, I really want to thank people here. We have raised 15,000 rupees in this campaign. Thank you so much for people who've come in and donated. Alok, Swati, and a bunch of others. I request everybody else, if you're keen to support Hasiru Dala, the social impact organization that's working with waste collectors, please do. The links in your chat, right? All right, so I'll take this moment to quickly share with you just in terms of how this whole project was conceived, right? So here, you'll see this in a bit. So coming on your screens is right. So there you go. If you're able to see this. So this is, of course, the artwork that we saw with Param. And this is the map. We will share with you the link. This is the downloadable map. So you would see, we started from here. This is the 18th Cross bus stop. And we came down here, seeing all these pieces of work in the conservancy lanes. And this was the pourakarmika there. And after that was a long stretch where there's no work out there. And then we saw the Sakre Kaddi and the posted. And the last one is where we are right now with Amitabh's work, right? So this is the map. We'll be sharing this with you as well. So you could really use this and do this self-guided walk all by yourself. But let's look at. So this is the first piece of work. Look at all the volunteers here on their stencils. Yeah, and all the different bits of Malleshwaram always catches attention of kids. This is the second one, what we call Swagata, that Girija talked about, exactly how it was, and her sketches. It's a daughter, the marigolds there, right? Exactly, so that's Swagata. This is Chandana, this is the Sampige. Look, plain wall, and see what happens. It's the flowers coming out, yes, the Sampige flowers, the artist. Some working, some having the lunch, and look, transform, right? Moving on, this is Spandana's work, the sparrow, right, with her artwork, all the detailing here, right? Yeah, this is again the conservancy lane, the beautiful mango tree there, and the artist with her creation. This is Enoch's Copy Kuditya, Copy Kuditya, that's the one. The lady, again, a beautiful life-size, bigger than life-size. That's Enoch's work. This is the pourakarmika that Param talked about, right? The lady, and you could really see a completely free hand without any sketches. He's just gone about doing this. That's the photo in his hand. That's all he had. The butterfly, the volunteers working on it. When he talked about the beauty parlor, right there, all of it there. See, that's the lady, clearly catching attention of the young and the old. This is the lady I was talking about. She is Narayanamma, right? And that's her work, right? This is Seva Sadan, where you're finding just a plain white wall, and see the artist has begun. That's Anpu, just with the feet there, and see, I think, what she's going on to create. Right, exactly. It's a stunning piece, and you also you could see that like she's talking about the style of the working woman, the sari up and really taking the walk, right? You should definitely, I think, go check this piece out from different angles. Just beautiful with the background. Again, the next one here, it's with the Malleshwaram, the Geechu Galu, plain wall, again getting transformed. Yeah, all the artists, the Veena. This is the Sakre Kaddi. Yeah, just the initial sketches, and then you're seeing the artists, more work, right? And then transform, right? Yeah, that's Abhijit holding a postcard in his hand, right? And then his creation. All the detailing, right, is what you're getting to see. And look, and this is Amitabh's work. Can you believe it? And this is after they've done the initial touch-ups on the wall. This was a no-go zone, right? Almost, and see how it gets transformed. The kids come in, help out with some painting. He's got the wall sorted, and then he goes on to create his magic, right? And that's putting a mull in Malaysia. Right. So this was the presentation. I'll stop sharing screen. So that was the street walk. I'll open up for any Q&A if people have any questions to ask any of the artists. We would love to hear. But this is yeah. So this is the fantastic work in terms of Malleshwaram Hogona. Anybody here? Any if you have any questions to any of the artists, please do ask away. You can come in on chat. Exactly, any residents of Malleshwaram, if any of you want to come in, any questions here, we would love to. Yeah. Right, we're getting questions in terms of people are talking about how can artists join the collective. I'll also get Yash here if you want to answer, take any of these questions. Yash, right? Yeah, that's Yash again.
Hi, Vinay. Thanks for having me back. I just wanted to maybe ask Amitabh if he wanted to continue talking about his piece before he got cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Amitabh still there? Amitabh?
Maybe we can just unmute him or give him the option. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amitabh,
Sorry. Yeah. I guess someone asked a question as well, Tunisha, about why I use lines. Is that her? Monisha. Sorry, not Tunisha. So Monisha, we had an interesting conversation while we were doing this, and I think the center of it. I mean, I don't paint, I draw, and I think part of my attempt to use lines is to keep elements as within a defined unit, and to keep colors within a defined unit as well, so that there is no merging. And what you see really is almost like a pixel effect, or like a point list effect, where different colors, green is green, yellow is yellow, brown is brown, etc., etc. But when you see it from a distance, it seems to come together optically for you, and that is my interest. I use lines because I don't know. I find it very difficult to deal with the I can't. I mean, I know what I'm doing. I'm in control, and I don't deal with the lack of control as well as some of the other painters that I know. I don't know many painters, but Anpu is a painter, and I guess you could say that we belong to two opposite ends of the spectrum, where a lot of her work is to do with the nature of mixing tonalities and mixing pigment, and things lose their identity to become something that they weren't. Whereas for me, singular identities are extremely important vis-a-vis line, color, shape, I don't know, thoughts. So what I did here was just to finish, I traced the movement of light in the lane. So on opposite sides of the road, you see these orange lines were my first marks, and this is the shadow that the light that the shadow creates, negative space of the shadow within the canopy, the shadow that the canopy casts. And both walls get beautiful shadows and therefore beautiful patches of light at different points of the day. And I wanted to create something, an artwork that changes with the time of the day. So if you come here in the morning, it'll be a different artwork, as opposed to if you come here in the evening, it'll be a different artwork, and so on and so forth. But thank you, Yash, for allowing me to finish.
Great. Thanks, Amitabh, for running us through your piece of work. It's a fantastic piece. Great place to just go pick up a book, read, spend some time there. Right. With that, I'm just checking if there are more questions. Yes, I think there's one in terms of how do you join the collective. So if that's something that you would like to pick up.
I'll let Yash answer.
Yeah, Gauri as well. If if Yash is unable to come in, Gauri, do you want to take that?
So Just to give an understanding about how these 13 artists have worked together, Geechu Galu is a collective of artists. Yash had initially spoken about who all are part of it at the beginning. Request everybody to look up Geechu Galu's on Instagram. They also have a website. The map can also be downloaded on Geechu Galu's website. Please put in your requests to Geechu Galu, and they put out recurrent calls for volunteers and put out proposals for artists. In fact, a lot of artists that have joined this particular project, Malleshwaram Hogona, was because Geechu Galus had put in a request asking for artists from across the city to come be part of this project. That is, I guess, if Yash wants to add anything, I will let him. I see some really nice questions, and I can probably come back and answer those.
Yeah, I think Gauri, thanks for taking that, us figuring out the technicalities. We do have some artists of the collectives that also work individually, and they are looking for people to volunteer with them, help them out. And Geechu Galu updates regularly on their website. We did reach out to individual artists like Amitabh and Anpu, and we invited them into the project. Also Shivu. So sometimes if we know your work intimately, we reach out to you directly. Because a lot of the work that we do goes unpaid, we cannot easily accept everyone into the collective because we're just a band of friends. And sometimes there's no guilt on us if, let's say, we ask for a brainstorming meeting and I don't have to think about paying him, because what happens is that people often confuse a collective with a company. So the expectations are different, and we try to really keep it narrow. But Geechu Galu does intend on continuing through this fantastic opportunity that Bengaluru Moving provided us, continuing working in neighborhoods. So we'll reach out to everyone on our social media, and for everyone who is reached out to on our registration for volunteering, we'll definitely reach out for that. I'll take on the next questions, if any.
Right.
Yeah.
Just any other quick questions I'm saying in terms of I think there's an interesting question there. I think that Malika talks about, and it's true. Just you just want to quickly tell us in terms of how is it now getting permissions, etc. Do you have to like work on that, or you could like pick any wall and decide to like paint on it? What was the story
So,
here?
I would say that is before the artist comes in. That's the other artwork, where we had a fantastic support team of Janet Orlean and Hari. Hari was our community manager and our community lead, where I worked with him closely to approach each house to donate their wall for our campaign. And they met the artist directly, and the artist showed them what they intended to make. Now, we had a support letter from BBMP and DULT, which is the Department of Urban Land Transport, that supported our initiative with Bengaluru Moving. And because we were working closely with the resident welfare association of Malleshwaram, or the community called Malleshwaram Social, also we were in collaboration with Sensing Local, which is an urban planning project that has got a grant from DULT to place make. And what I mean by place make is to turn these spaces into sites of recreation, of activity, and not just for pedestrianizing it or parking it, but rather to re-envision what public spaces should be. So some, like Amitabh's site is going to become a recreation zone for senior citizens, because in the apartment surrounding, there are a lot of senior citizens. So we had the support and guidance of many partners on board, and that's how we went about it. We came in with a very sole purpose of looking at the visual aspects of what we could do and the experiential aspect. So with that vision, we wrote to each house and they welcomed us really warmly. And I must give the credit to the amazing, amazing residents of Malleshwaram, who I was really apprehensive about earlier. It is difficult in other areas to work this way, because you in a city, a lot of the spaces are given away for commercial displays. But in Malleshwaram, they really conserved some, some essence of home. and what creates a neighborhood from a home, you know.
Got it. Interesting. Yes. Do you want to just turn on your show us where you are? Just turn on your cameras and before we say great. So it's still the last piece of work. That's interesting. Yes, really
Okay.
talking about what goes on behind the scenes to get a project like this started. I totally underestimated something like this. It's about picking up a wall and painting, but no, there's so much that goes in terms of logistics, getting the permissions. I also heard stories about how you approach an owner and they say, no, not this piece of work. I want what's being painted on somebody else's wall. So really trying to work with people and manage people. Fantastic, great. That's it. It's
If I can just jump in 1 second.
yes, please.
I see a lot of questions about how this work there can be more of this in other parts of Bangalore.
Yes.
I guess, I mean, I shout out to my 2 team members who are here from the Bengaluru moving side. We're a collective, but we have representation today from Malika and Tanisha. Please feel free to jump in, but I'll just outline what worked for the campaign overall. Just if you're interested in seeing more art in your neighborhood, what really worked was a group of extremely driven residents who wanted to do more for their community. Once that we were able to work with that community, everything else fell in place. They were able to mediate getting permissions with government officials, being able to talk to residents, in fact, and tell them that, hey, this is the larger vision that we have for this particular neighborhood. We are from here. Having Malleshwaram Social's support was very, very crucial for us to do this in Malleshwaram. And I guess that's the center of it. All the other pieces sort of fit themselves when you have a neighborhood and residents who are completely bought into transforming the way neighborhoods are arranged, I suppose, for them. Really big shout out to Malleshwaram Social and everybody else who helped plug in at different points, also Gully Tours, because once this activity is over, we hope that it continues to stay alive through other kinds of people. Go and check them out, use the map, check them out, join Gully Tours on one of the tours that you organize in Malleshwaram, and keep this going. But essentially for communities, what we really want is for more people to be walking and exploring their cities on foot and more sustainable modes of transport. I'll let Malika and Tanisha jump in if they would like to add anything.
Malika, Tanisha, anything that you want to come in with?
Yeah, just gonna +1 Gauri there. I think the biggest piece here is for a project like this to be really owned by the community. I mean, as long as it's seen as something that is being done by outsiders, that sense of ownership is never going to come. So what we really saw through this is the community coming together in various ways. So we definitely do hope that we can support more initiatives like this across the city as we continue working there. But it's been absolutely amazing to see how Yash and his entire team have really, brought everyone on board and made everyone feel, as much a part of it as the artists themselves who've actually painted the walls. But yeah, it's been a great experience. Tanisha, anything to add?
Tanisha, do you want to come in? Anything?
I think she gave us a
Good.
thumbs up and said
We've covered all of it, and it's been an incredible session. Thank you so much.
Right. Amazing. Thank you, guys. I think this is fantastic. Really getting to walk through Malleshwaram. Thanks, Yash, on the ground to really see the artworks the way they are right now. Right. Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'll just leave you guys with just 2 lines. One that I heard from an old-time Malleshwaram resident who was born, brought up there. And he said, you'll probably find another Switzerland, but not Malleshwaram. So that's the kind of attachment that people have to localities. And something that Yash left me with, and he said, we probably painted less than 1% of the walls that we could have, right? So I think that just leaves you with so much more possibility with what you can do with art and street art, right? So thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. Thank you, the whole Bangalore Moving team, for really working with each other and giving our city something so wonderful, and the opportunity to work with you guys. Thank you so much. We will continue these walks in Malleshwaram once things get better. We will do these physical walks on these art tours, right? So thank you so much for all of you to come in on a Sunday evening and enjoy some free time, right? Take care and have a good day.